My name's Jenna. I'm 27 years old, working as an investigative journalist for a local news agency in Boston. I always loved the adrenaline rush of diving deep into hidden stories. However, last winter, the tables were turned, and I found myself becoming the story. Boston winters are unyielding. The city's beauty, with its charming brownstones and historic sites, gets draped in a blanket of snow. The cold air feels crisp, and by evening, a thick fog usually rolls in from the harbor, casting an eerie quiet. My office, a renovated building that retained its old-world brick facade, always had a certain character. The creaky wooden floors, the occasional draft, and the sound of typewriters created a nostalgic atmosphere. Around 7 p.m. one evening, as I sifted through articles, my office phone rang. The digital screen displayed unknown. I answered, expecting perhaps a tip for a story. Instead, I heard the unsettling sound of wind. A chill, more from the cold than the room's draft, ran down my spine. "Hello?" I persisted, but there was no response. After the third consecutive call around 9 p.m., I felt unease settling in. "Mark, a colleague with whom I work regularly. Again?" he inquired. "Yeah," I responded, "and all I hear is wind." Mark's playful smirk faded, replaced by a pensive look. Just as I was packing up, my personal cell beeped. An unknown number read, "I hope you like the sound of the wind." Panic welled up in me. I showed Mark, his face now betraying deep concern. "You remember Melissa, right?" I nodded. Melissa was a reporter who'd gone missing 2 years ago. Before she disappeared, she told me about similar calls. Thought it was a prank. But now... Mark trailed off, leaving the rest unsaid. Mark stood up, straightening his jacket, "I'm walking you out." No arguments. The corridors felt longer that night. Every shadow seemed ominous, and every sound amplified in the silence. Outside, the thick fog had rolled in, making the streets resemble scenes from a classic horror movie. The glow from the lamplights appeared hazy, and the historic buildings looked like silent watchers. "You know, Boston has its tales," Mark mused as we walked, "stories of ghosts, legends, and unexplained mysteries." I managed a weak smile. Right now, I'd prefer not to become one. As we neared Mark's car, parked beside a frost-covered tree, a gust of wind rustled some newspapers. My cell buzzed again. Another text. "Hear the wind?" "I'm close." I showed Mark, and our pace quickened. As we approached his car, the streetlights dimmed, then flickered. And in that wavering light, a silhouette emerged. A tall figure, cloaked in darkness with just those cold eyes visible, stood blocking our path. Mark, ever the protective figure, stepped forward. "Who are you? What do you want?" But the figure remained silent, the unsettling sound of wind emanating from their direction. Reacting quickly, Mark pulled me towards the car. "Get in," he urged. As we sped away, I caught a glimpse of the figure in the rearview mirror, standing motionless, watching. Reaching my apartment, Mark insisted on a thorough check. Room by room, we searched, finding nothing amiss. As Mark prepared to leave, my landline rang. Apprehensively, I answered. The sound of wind, louder this time, filled the room. In the distance, I thought I heard a whisper, "You can't escape the wind." Mark took the phone, his voice firm. "Who is this?" A long pause ensued, then a voice, eerily calm, responded, "She heard the wind too." Sleep was elusive that night. Every creak, every gust outside seemed magnified. Mark stayed on my couch, unwilling to leave me alone. We talked about Melissa, the old stories, and the city's mysteries. The following day, we reported everything to the police. My contacts, my stories, everything was scrutinized, searching for a connection. I took a break from work and stayed with friends out of town. The calls ceased, and life slowly found its rhythm again. Yet, every gust of wind, every hooded stranger on the street, brought the haunting memories flooding back. Mark and I grew closer, bound by the shared terror of that night, often reflecting on the events over cups of coffee. He would always conclude with, "Some stories are better left untold."